What's going on, guys? It is Murderank, and boy do I have a video for you today. Some of you might be extremely upset by what I'm about to say. Some of you might be in extreme denial by what I'm going to say. However, this video is going to be made. This is going to be a gigantic video, and approach this with an open mind. Hear me out and you will understand exactly why I am saying what I'm about to say. So Kaiden here is going to be the strongest epic of this entire fusion, and I did give you a bit of a teaser in the last video in saying I was going to make a very strong claim. Now, what is this claim exactly? Let me move on over to page here of Kaiden, showing you his skills, running through the skills, and kind of giving you some background as far as why I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And I know I'm kind of building this up a lot, and you'll understand that once I do. We have an A1 here that has a rather small percentage chance of placing that provoke debuff. He's a defense based Dark Elf champion, so already off the bat provides a ton of utility over any type of attack or HP based champion as far as progression goes. Then we have this A2 here that is a 100% chance once fully booked on a 3-turn cooldown, an AoE that decreases attack for 2 turns. And once again, this is a 3-turn cooldown, so very strong ability here. Then we have an A3, which is really cool. We have a 4-turn cooldown, revives 2 random allies with 50% HP, and places a 60% increased defense buff on them for 1 turn. So why is this so strong? He is not filling their turn meter all the way to 100% and giving them a buff. There are champions that do that, where they revive a champion, give them turn meter, and give them a buff duration for 1 turn, and it makes no sense, because more often than not, that champion will go, and in a sense, it will burn through that buff, and the next attack will simply just kill this champion. Now, 2 random allies are being revived, and it's really unlikely that more than 2 allies at a time are going to be dying. If it is, you're probably going to wipe anyways, but that's a totally separate topic. So now they're reviving with 50% HP and this really strong 60% increased defense buff. So whichever champions do end up going next, these allies are in fact protected. Now this comes to the part where I tell you which champion is this better than in a very significant part of the game. That champion is in fact going to be Arbiter. Now, people may be losing their minds when I say this. What do you mean, Murder? How could this champion possibly be better than an Arbiter? So let's kind of break that down for you. I've already gone over his revive. Arbiter does have revive, so does this champion. Arbiter does not provide any damage. All she's pretty much doing is speeding up your entire team. Now, if you know how turn meter works and how it works from stage to stage, there is no overflow on the turn meter. Whatever the starting values of your turn meter is in a stage 1 of a dungeon, the same thing is repeated to the next time. So if your Arbiter isn't going 3, 4, or 5 times each round, there's no point in having her as fast as you actually do have her. So why is that such a big deal? Most people stack speed on Arbiter for Arena and try to use her in dungeons, and some people really struggle in dungeons with Arbiter, not understanding why she isn't helping as much as they thought she would, because there is a very specific Arbiter build that could compete with someone like a Kaiden, but most people don't ever run that because she is such a strong tool in the arena. Now, none of these champions have auras that benefit dungeons in any way, shape, or form, so that is not going to be a talking point. However, Kaiden has much higher survivability than an Arbiter. He does enough damage to make it worth it. He does significantly more damage than Arbiter in dungeons. He applies an AoE attack down in dungeons, which is very strong. And he has the opportunity, even though it's a small one, to provoke an enemy. So as mentioned before, Arbiter has a few things going for her, being that heal, being that increased turn meter. However, like I said before, most people do not take advantage of the turn meter. They're simply going 1 or 2 times per stage in a round. Sometimes if you're really early in progression and have lower speeds on Arbiter, maybe your whole team goes twice and it's a really long fight to go through these stages. You don't need that with Kaiden. And what you really see when you have an early stage Arbiter is she's using her revive when there's no one to revive. So when someone dies, they stay dead for too long, and it really is detrimental to your team. Kaiden has a smart revive, meaning since it does nothing else besides revive, He will never use his A3 unless champions are in fact dead. That increases his value incredibly. So now let me go over his gear. I'm going to show you a run so you can really understand why I'm saying Kaiden is going to be the better support than someone like an Arbiter in any dungeon you can think of where the affinity does in fact make sense. So as we can see here, I always like to do damage checks on my champions before I put them in and before I kind of make a YouTube video so you guys know what you're looking at. So he is in a Savage gear set. Looking at his base stats first this time as opposed to what I normally do. He has 95 base speed. It is rather low. However, as you can see, I'm running 162 speed. So I don't really care about speed since his particular role, he doesn't require a ton of speed. You don't have to focus on damage as much as I did. It's kind of just an added bonus. And like I said, it's to show you guys what you can actually do with this champion. So we have 5.3 thousand defense on this guy, which is a ton of defense, 237% critical damage, and once again 162 speed. His base health is rather low, but his base defense is very solid for a defense-based champion, especially being a fusion epic, and he does have the lower threshold of that critical damage, kind of for good reason. As far as mastery goes, I did give him Helm Smasher and I did put him in the defensive tree, also giving him the shadow heal effect. Any enemies you are fighting in waves of dungeons, anytime they heal, they're actually going to heal Kaiden as well if you choose or elect to not use a healer in your progression runs. So for this specific run, we are going to be using Norog for that defense aura in dungeons, as well as Kaiden, Orlem Frostking, Black Knight, and Venus. So let's take this for a quick spin and see what this champion can do, see what his potential actually is. This is currently running on 1x speed. So let's just get through to the first ability just so we can see what we're working with here. We're going to be using defense up next, right here. Now let's take a look at, we'll just burn this A1 here from Norog. Now let's take a look at Kaiden's A2 ability, which is an AoE attack down on the entire enemy. So 147 to 80,000, a significant amount of damage. The key takeaway here is make sure you have a defense up, which is going to be very strong. Now this wave is pretty much going to be reset here. We do have that defense down. This is what I was talking about in that Baroth video where we just saw 59,000 damage from that A1 with a decreased defense on this champion. Once again, 97,000 damage on that A1 that also provokes. So this champion has potential to do a significant amount of damage, which alone in itself, on top of being a reviver, is rather unique to see, especially someone doing this much damage. And this is why I made the claim that he's actually going to be significantly better than an Arbiter in dungeon progressions, and specifically for dungeons. I don't want people to take this saying, you're saying he's better than Arbiter overall. That's obviously not the case. Arbiter's a turn meter booster support and a reviver. This guy's a defense-based, hard-hitting reviver, has a much better revive than Arbiter, even though, like I said, Arbiter does have that AoE revive, which he is using at random times since there is a turn meter boost. It's really not consistent, and I've seen it mess up so many runs and make it so frustrating in progression. So this guy's pretty much just doing an insane amount of damage. He has huge utility, and in my opinion, he is more beneficial than a Feign. Now, if you do need that defense on the weekend, it's fine. You can definitely go for Feign. However, this guy is so strong, I think it would personally be foolish to not fuse this guy. If you had to pick one of the 4 epics to go for the fusion, and you can only pick one, I would honestly choose Kaiden, as he seems to be the most well-rounded as far as what you can actually use if you are early to mid-game. Even if you are endgame, this guy will have a lot of potential in Faction Wars. He's going to be really strong, as you can see from this Stage 20 Dragon run here. Quickly going over the recap, we see Norog doing 416,000 damage, as opposed to Kaiden doing 1.8 million damage as a revive champion. I know I keep stressing revive champion, but that's really the key takeaway here. Defense based isn't the key takeaway. The fact that he revives, puts a defense up on these champions, and has the ability to do this much damage. Granted, I do have very high gear. All you have to do is scale this back a bit. If this guy's doing 800,000 damage in your progression runs, this is a really solid champion, because someone like an Arbiter isn't coming close to that. Now, you probably wouldn't run Helm Smasher if you were using this guy for progression. You would probably use something like War Master. War Master is going to do a little bit less damage on the waves, but it's going to be doing significantly more damage onto the actual dragon boss. So this guy has tons of potential. We see Venus the Poisoner here in actually good gear, as opposed to where I normally have everyone in kind of scuffed gear, as far as they're not really wearing proper gear or they're wearing +8 gear, so on and so forth. Venus is actually wearing a full gear set. She's been built for separate reasons that were from a previous video, so she did 1,000,000 damage as a poisoner, as a defense on weakened champion that does apply damage to people when she does debuff them. Whirling Frost King doing 491,000, and Black Knight doing 157,000 damage. So you can really see here why Kaiden shines and why I'm preaching how strong this champion actually is. So seeing that Kaiden is in fact a blue champion, the question is, where are you going to use him? Ice Golem is definitely going to be an option for you. Unfortunately, Fire Knight isn't going to be an option. However, he isn't a multi-hit champion, so someone like Barroth instead of Kaiden is going to be the option for this stage 20. And now the question you have to ask yourself, how good is this guy going to be in the clan boss? He has an A1 that hits pretty hard. He's defense based, so while you're stacking for survivability, you're gaining damage out of it. Kaiden is probably going to be a meta champion as far as an attack down reviver in clan boss teams, simply for the fact that I've kind of gone over multiple times already here today. He has that short, hard-hitting cooldown of that attack down in a speed team where you're getting multiple turns. It's very strong, and the biggest drawback from revive champions are they revive champions and they don't get a turn, they don't have any buffs on them from the team, and they simply get one shot again. Or the fact that they revive the champions, they put a strong buff on them, but they also fill their turn meter and they're blowing through these beneficial buffs they were just given to survive the next AoE or stun from the clan boss, and it pretty much defeats the purpose here. Now you have a champion reviving 2 allies at a time, applying that defense up buff on them and not touching their turn meter at all. He's going to see lots of play in the clan boss. I am definitely going to work on a clan boss team, make a video on it to show you guys some examples, kind of more mid-game examples. If you're early game, this guy's a home run for you. You can throw him in any team you want, literally any team you want. He's going to improve your clan boss damage because he does a ton of damage himself. But as far as mid-game goes, I know there's a lot of mid-game players kind of on the fence here. Do I go for this fusion, spend the money, do I not? We can talk about the fusion when I actually review the champion at hand, but as of right now, I would say go for Kaiden, go for Barroth, see if you need Thane, even though she is harder to gear, and you can just move on from there. And obviously I'll keep you updated as I go along with releasing these videos, showing you the different types of content these champions can do with all of this. So give me your feedback, let me know what you guys think. I know I just dropped a bomb on you guys comparing Kaiden to Arbiter, saying Kaiden is better, and some people are probably going to be extremely vocal about this. Try to keep it logical. I'm really not a fan of illogical responses, and I probably won't answer if that is the case. So I'm looking forward to your feedback regardless. Definitely drop a comment. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Are you going to be using him in Faction Wars? He's kind of a home run there. I don't really have to explain that. You can kind of read his kit without testing him and know he's a very strong Faction War option for pretty much everybody. And that's going to conclude my video. Thank you guys a bunch for watching. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss my next video, and I will see you all in the next upload.